Welcome to Intuitive Transformations with your host, Sylvia Henderson, and discover tools, wisdom, and inspiration that will empower you to transform your life. Sylvia is an intuitive life coach and energy healer with a growing practice that is focused on empowering others to be more of who they want to be. For the next hour, join Sylvia and explore and unravel anything in the way of you creating the life that you would love to live on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intuitive Transformations radio show, where you will find tools you can use to change and transform your life. I'm Sylvia Henderson, your host, and I am here live on OMTimes Radio, the voice of consciousness, every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to listen to this show again in the future, you can do that. Just visit the OMTimes Radio Archive page on OMTimes.com, and there you will find all the previous Intuitive Transformations radio shows, as well as the previous shows of all the other OMTimes radio show hosts. So be sure to visit the OMTimes.com website, click on the link for radio, and then click on archives and discover the many ways that you can expand your consciousness from the comfort of your home or anywhere in the world via your mobile device. And if you're tuning in to my show for the very first time, I want you to know that the primary focus of all of the Intuitive Transformation radio shows is to connect with creative and conscious minds on a soul-to-soul level and to share valuable information and resources that will inspire all of you listening to expand into more of who you truly are so that you can step boldly into more of what you love and desire to receive and experience in your life. If you enjoy my show, please be sure to like me on Facebook, tweet about the show, and share this show's podcast with your friends and family, because it's important to get the word out that there are positive and uplifting conversations happening right here every Sunday evening to inspire, support, and to enlighten your life. Now, if there is a topic that you would like me to feature on the show, please leave me a comment on my OMTimes radio show page, or let me know by visiting my website at intuitivetransformations.net, and just ask any questions that you have, because I would really, really love to hear from you. And if you would like to know just more about me and what I do, then definitely visit my website. I'm excited to share that I just revised the entire thing, so it's got a completely different look. I have a new logo, some new content, new images, new photos, and it's just a brand new, really nice, clean, slick layout. You can also take advantage of a complimentary 15-minute phone consultation with me and experience firsthand how I can help you improve and elevate your life. Now, this 15-minute phone consultation is my personal gift to you. It's absolutely without any strings attached. So if you want to take advantage of this, be sure to go to the website, Intuitive Transformations, just like the name of the show, intuitivetransformations.net. Everyone on the planet has just experienced another great big astrological shift and cosmic event. And this event is called the Lion's Gateway, or Lion's Gate. And this happens every year on August 8th. Now, yesterday was August 8th, and yesterday's Lion Gate was particularly auspicious because it was a 888. And what I mean by that is that the month was August, and that's the 8th month of the year. It was the 8th day of the month, and 2015, the year 2015, when you add those numbers together, they equal the number 8. The Lion's Gate, or the Lion's Gateway, is a portal. Some have called it a portal of light. And it's light that's being poured out onto the planet right now. If you're feeling a little emotionally overwhelmed, or if you were feeling a little emotionally overwhelmed on August 8th, that's probably because you're receiving more light. more of an energetic upgrade. So it's a little bit like if you were to slowly pour pure, clean water into a glass of dirty, stagnant water that had sludge at the bottom of the glass. Well, as that clean, fresh water is being poured in, the sludge and the stagnated water just moves up to the top so it can be flushed out. And so this light that's coming out is just moving those dense, heavier energies out of your way so that you're able to experience that fresh, clean energy, a higher vibrational of love and light. So keep in mind that emotions are only energy. That's why they are called emotions. It's just energy in motion. And so don't resist what's coming up. Allow yourself to release it and let the energy move through you, and just don't judge it. Don't think that it's wrong, that it's bad. You know, we live in a society where we've learned to disown our emotions, to not connect with them. And it's really important that we allow them to move through us so we don't trap them in our bodies. So we're living in a time where we really need to learn to let go of our judgments and our fears and all of our old traumas and the wounds that we've experienced from the past. And when we do this, we can move forward with a lot of less effort into our future. So be really kind and gentle to yourself during this time. I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And also, if you tuned in last week to listen to Diana Lang and I have a conversation about her new book, Opening to Meditation, and you found that we were not there, I want to apologize. Diana and I experienced technical difficulties that were really beyond our control. Therefore, we were not able to do the show at that time. And I know that many of you were looking forward to learning more about meditation, and Diana Lang has graciously agreed that she and I are going to make this happen for you. So Diana is going to be back with me here on Sunday, September 6th. Be sure to jot that date down on your calendar and to tune in at our regular live airtime to catch that show. And if you miss it, be sure to look for the recorded podcast then in the OMTimes radio archives. And those should be available the following Monday, just as the podcast for this show will be available tomorrow, the following Monday. Today, I am excited to share with you a very special guest. Her name is Marie-Rose Phan-Le. Let me tell you about this remarkable woman before I have her join us. Marie-Rose Phan-Le has over 20 years of experience in film and TV production. She is the director, writer, and producer of Talking Story, a personal journey into the world of healing, which is an award-winning original documentary film that explores the spiritual and healing traditions of indigenous cultures worldwide. She has traveled extensively, from the rainforest of Peru to the peaks of the Himalayas, and she is also the author of her film's companion book titled Talking Story, One Woman's Quest to Preserve Ancient Spiritual and Healing Traditions. Marie-Rose transitioned her flourishing healing practice, working one-to-one with individuals, to focusing on the one-to-many through her media projects and consulting work. She is currently the Chief Operating Officer and Creative Director at High Impact Inc., where she applies ancient wisdom to the modern challenges of running a multi-million-dollar media and technology company. Marie-Rose was born in Vietnam, immigrated to France, and later to the United States, and she currently lives in Hawaii, yet she works in Denver, Colorado. So, without further ado, Marie-Rose, welcome to Intuitive Transformations.
Aloha, Sylvia. How are you?
Aloha. I am wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here with me.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have a lot of questions for you. I really do, because I find that what you have done in your life, with your life, is absolutely fascinating. I mean, talk about pendulum swinging left and right. Wow. You know, my first question, of course, is about your commute, which is kind of a pendulum swing in of itself. So how is it possible that you live in Hawaii, yet you work in Denver, Colorado?
You know, I am blessed with the way that technology is today. I'm able to communicate with my team and our clients and things like that from afar. And so that's been wonderful because I think it's been really great for me to be able to be more grounded when I am on the mainland by having spent some time in Hawaii to be more contemplative. And so it's really a blessing. And also there are direct flights that I can take, and I have some options. So and also the people that I work with have been very accommodating to this type of working relationship. So sometimes it takes its toll. Every once in a while you think, gosh, I kind of don't want to pack a suitcase right now. Like yesterday when you were talking about being emotional on 8/8.
You got a little bit of that hit too, I take it.
Oh, absolutely. And it was one of those things where I just did not want to leave home. But it's okay, and I feel it's such an amazing thing to be able to do this. And it's one of the wonderful things of the modern world, right? That we can be transported and be able to be in many different places.
Yeah, that's really, and that's true. It's nice. There's so many telecommuters now, people that actually don't have to leave their home to work, but you do some travel back and forth.
Yes. There are just some things, we talk about this a lot in terms of the idea of talk story, where you do need to be in the same room and share the presence of each other's essence, and look into each other's eyes, and read all the little minor things that may be missed, even if you have cameras, to see each other at a conference. So I feel it's important that I show up in person as well, often enough to continue the relationships.
Well, that's really beautiful that you have the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're about to go into a break. Please stay tuned. You're listening to the Intuitive Transformations radio show here on OMTimes, the voice of consciousness. When we return, we're going to continue our conversation with Marie Rose Phan-Le.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue-collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into OMTimes Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Sylvia Henderson, and I have with me here my very special guest, Marie Rose Phan-Le, and we are talking about Talking Story, which is a documentary as well as a book that was created by Marie Rose. And so before we dive into how you have been able to balance spirituality with the corporate world, Marie Rose, I really want to dig into Talking Story. I know from both your film and your book that spiritual gifts run in your family, and you were really raised in an environment that was open spiritually. But how is it that one day you decided, I'm going to travel around the world B, I'm going to explore ancient spiritual teachings. And C, I'm going to create a documentary based upon my experiences?
Well, I think I was already in the film industry, so the documentary idea came pretty easily to me. But I think because I write about it in the book, I had a pretty severe betrayal from my New Age guru, and I had always been studying, these traditions. And so when that happened, it just catapulted me into, I should get out there and try to follow these practices and traditions that have been practiced this way for eons, and see if I can find my own truth. And that is really what catalyzed me to go and do this. But because I had already been trained as a filmmaker, then I thought, well, I'll just wrap it up in something that I'm already good at.
Right. That's so smart.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've always been a faithful person. I do pray or ask, how can, Spirit, the universe, God, use what I have, my skills, my foibles, my frailties, my knowledge, in service. And so that was kind of the first thing that came to mind was, well, I can make a film. That I know how to do.
Well, I love that you followed your intuition and you followed your guidance. But now, how did you decide on the title of the book? I mean, why did you choose the title Talking Story for the book and for the film? And does it have a special meaning? Because it's kind of an unusual title.
It is. Some people say, I don't really know what that means. And I'll say, well, did you just open the first page? But it didn't come to me immediately, interestingly. It took me a long time to kind of think, what best describes what was been created here? And what's been created here is not so much a straight up documentary that, just looks at people from a distance and gives you, kind of a straight look at them. But what emerged was this idea of a joint collaborative consciousness, or the idea that we began to travel together the minute I met the healers. And so this meant that we had a shared dialogue. They wanted to hear my story. I wanted to hear their story. And so in Hawaii, we have a saying when people say, hey, come over, let's visit. We say, come over, let's talk story. And so that's kind of the casual use of talking story or talk story. But one of the things that I've found it to evoke is this sense of presence, the sense of being there for the people with whom you talk story. And it can be sometimes someone's telling a story, begin, middle, and end, like a storytelling session. But other times it's just shooting the breeze and just being together and talking about whatever comes up without having any pre-planned ideas. So I've kind of been on this roll about a return to talking story, which is really just a return to, which we were talking about earlier, that, why I commute to Denver, because there is a lot I can do telecommuting, but there's some things that can never be replaced by the act of being physically present together and listening to each other. Yeah. So
there's so much more to listening than hearing than voice. There's the energy you can feel from someone being in your presence. There's their body language. There's so much more to communication than just the words.
Exactly right. So sometimes I say I really should call it listen story, because of course, one of the most important parts about talking story is listening story. And
that's something most people don't do very well, right?
Yes, that's what I'm learning.
So I, also, how did you find the healers that you featured in the Talking Story? And okay, so I have so many questions I have to ask. I'm like, let's get them straight, Sylvia. So there's a part of me that just wants to say, when I watched the documentary, and even in the book, it's hard to tell whether or not you're telling the story of ancient traditions or if you're telling the story of a woman's spiritual awakening. But in addition to that, how did you find, that was just my comment. In addition to that, how did you find the healers that were featured in Talking Story?
Well, I was very blessed. I did a lot of research, Sylvia, and we always found what I refer to as bridge people who, have one foot in their culture and one foot in the cultures I was interested in. And whether they were anthropologists or artists or authors, photographers, people who had already had a strong interest in the communities, and they, wherever they opened a door for me and I could walk through, that's where I went. So I didn't really seek out any particular person, and I wasn't looking for any kind of well-known type of healer or guru or anything like that. I really just wanted to meet with healers and spiritual teachers who are held in high regard within their own communities. So I was so blessed to meet with, Thomas Kelly. He's in the book and the film. He was a photo activist, is a photo activist who uses the art of photography to build awareness in the world. And then in Hawaii, I met a wonderful woman named Nancy Kahalivai who, was raised on the mainland and married into a Hawaiian family and was also a body worker. So she had a great interest in the healing arts there. So it was always through someone else who already had knowledge and connection.
Gotcha. So some of the healers that you interviewed live in the Nepal area, in that region. And I know, as you know, there was an earthquake there earlier this year.
Yes.
And, so did that earthquake affect, because when you're looking at the video and you see that these homes are quite fragile, did the earthquake have any adverse effects on some of some of the communities that the healers were living in?
Through my contacts, I heard it wasn't too bad in their area, so that was very good to know.
Good.
But I did have a friend who lives in Kathmandu, but who is from the Humla region, and his home crumbled, and he had to live on the street across from his home for fear that the house would fall down, and this is actually was featured in the last issue of OMTimes. I authored a small article and we published his poem. So in the devastation of the earthquake, he found his voice as a poet. It was the first poem he'd ever written.
Wow.
And through the beautiful people at OMTimes, it's the first time he's ever been published.
Wow.
But it was just a beautiful, raw, honest expression of what it was like right after the earthquake. And one of the beautiful things is that through the reading of his poem at a fundraiser, we were able to raise awareness and raise funding for aid in Nepal. So it's just interesting how the reciprocity circle continues, because I received so much from the healers and the teachers in Nepal. Mm-hmm. So to be able to
reciprocate in that way. Yeah.
Yes, and help one of their sons, because Jigme is very close to some of the healers we met. So it was just really fulfilling. And again, this gift of being able to collaborate with people who are creating media as medicine, right, to better our world is. So it was just so beautiful to be able to know that not only was I able to share the healing transmissions and wisdom through the film and the book, but then to continue to serve the community and the people there is I feel very blessed.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. And I love what you just said, media as medicine. What a concept when you think about what is on our airwaves today. Which is why I'm so grateful to be associated with OMTimes and OMTimes Radio, because there is so much harmful information, I think, because it really does. Yes. It's just so fear-based, and it's not productive, and it's not conducive to really expanding. So I love that you said that. That's beautiful. That really is something.
And that's why we're here. That's why we're here today with you, with what you're doing, with your show and the work that you're doing. And so it's really, I can't thank you enough, for having me on the show.
Well, the gratitude is definitely mutual. Absolutely, without a doubt. Absolutely, without a doubt. So going back to Talking Story. So this really does provide a very candid, eye-opening insight into ancient spiritual practices of some very indigenous communities. And some of the spiritual teachings and ceremonies are thousands of years old and considered to be extremely sacred. And yet, you were able to film some things. And so how were you able to convince the shaman and healers to allow you to film some of these ceremonies that other people have never even seen before outside of their community and circle?
I think it was really being respectful and asking, making a request rather than a command, a demand, or just coming in there with cameras ablazing. And thanks to the bridge people as well, who always gave me a very strong introduction. But most of the time, the feedback I got was that because these people are trained to see you beyond what one represents, they always said they saw the intention of my heart. And so, and that allowed them to know that I had good intentions with what they were going to give me, and that whether I was going to succeed or not I didn't think it mattered as much as knowing that I really wanted to be able to share their stories and their healing transmissions. Because not everybody's as lucky to be able to travel to Nepal or travel to the rainforest, and what can those people do? And so I thought, well, they can. Here it is in a book and in a film, and if you get something out of it, and it's much more accessible than having to travel. So that was kind of my pitch to them was, hey, not everybody's going to be able to come see you and meet you. And if there's any way that this machinery I have, these contraptions I have, my ability to tell a story could capture your essence and share it with others, what do you think about that? And they all pretty much thought it was a good idea.
I love that. Well, I think that they were right. They really saw the sincerity of your heart. I'm sure that, they were listening to their guidance just as you were listening to yours. So we're going to head into another break in just a moment. You're listening to Intuitive Transformations radio show on OMTimes radio, the voice of consciousness. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our conversation with Marie Rose Phan-Le. Stay tuned. We'll return in a moment.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. The future of internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Sylvia Henderson. You're listening to the Intuitive Transformations radio show here on iom.fm in your internet browser. I have with me here my very special guest, Marie Rose Phan-Le, and we're talking about her award-winning documentary Talking Story, as well as the companion book with the same title. And she's been sharing some of her, a little bit about her experience and what you can find by purchasing and watching the documentary and purchasing and reading her book. Now, Marie Rose, there was a segment in your film that was just, the whole documentary was so well done. It was all fascinating. It was amazing. Things I had never seen before. And I'd been studying healing arts for over 16 years. It's something I've always, and even, things that are paranormal and all of that for even longer. I've always had a fascination with things that go beyond the illusion of this third dimensional reality. And there was a moment, or a segment, I should say, within the film where you had a healing experience. You had done a healing ceremony, and then afterwards, later in that day, you had quite another experience, or in addition to that experience. And I'm watching the documentary, and I'm like, wow, what was that? And so for those who are listening who have no clue what I'm talking about and have not read your book and have not watched the documentary, can you talk and share a little bit about that? Because, as I kind of made a comment earlier where I said I wasn't really sure if I was only watching a documentary about indigenous cultures and ancient healing secrets or ceremonies and traditions, or if I was watching a woman going through a spiritual awakening. And I feel like it's a combination of the two. But in this particular segment.
Oh, great.
Oh, that was your intention then, right?
Yes, yay.
Well, kudos, darling, bravo. You hit it. You hit the nail on the head. So, but can you share a little bit about this one segment in the documentary that is surprising? I'll leave it at that.
That, I had the same response that you did. What was that? And initially, I think people thought I was suffering from a strange case of altitude sickness because, we were in the Himalayas and really at high altitudes and had some similar symptomology. But then when things got a lot weirder, people realized that, oh, that's not what's happening at all. And it really took me years, Sylvia, to really process what happened there. And even to this day, it's very difficult. When I have a screening of the film, it's very difficult for me to watch that part. Sometimes I even step out of the room. Basically, I describe it in the book as felt like as if I had lost control of my body and my speech. And I liken it to being drunk, and I very honestly say I've only been drunk twice in my life, and it's this weird feeling where you're trying to say something, but that's not what's coming out, or you're trying to move your body, but it goes in another direction. And after consulting with some Tibetan mystical scholars, I was told that after they watched the footage of what happened, that apparently I had been taken over by the energy of a higher deity who was looking for a vehicle to come through. So yeah, that wasn't an ordinary documentary experience at all, and like you,
was not scripted, that's for sure.
No, yeah, it's not reality TV where things are scripted.
No, I know.
I don't know. That's my joke because people sometimes think that is documentary and it's not. But I think that it was very difficult for me at the time, and then, as I said, for years later, to really kind of wrap my mind around what happened. And I can tell you that I don't like it. I don't like that feeling of being a channel or being a trans channel or medium. in that way where you lose all control. And so I think that I made a request if there was a way to do that to the guides or, people in the other dimensions, that if this is going to happen, I'd rather be more integrated.
Right.
I don't really want it to be, and it's similar in terms of, the Tibetan people that I consulted said that it was more oracular in nature. So it wasn't just a possession, by some discarnate spirit. It was, when things are oracular, they see it as a higher deity coming through with some prophetic type information. And, His Holiness has oracles that he consults, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so that is something that is within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And so it was important for me to be able to consult with people for whom this is part of their cosmology, if you will. And they didn't think it was strange at all. But of course, I was, kind of blown away myself. I mean, witnessing other people doing it versus doing it yourself.
It's two different things. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, nothing really prepared me for that, to be honest with you.
Right.
So
with everything that you did experience during this, while you were filming and creating Talking Story, has your concept of God and the divine changed in any way? And if so, how?
Well, as I said, I've always been a very faithful person. But I think that, it was interesting. I was raised Catholic. And my mom was raised Buddhist, and then she had to switch over to Catholicism because we were colonized by the French in Vietnam. And so I was raised with kind of this idea of a very punitive God. And even though I knew that probably wasn't true, you definitely got entrained to that, this kind of sin, this kind of idea of, so to have gone through what I did on my journey, understanding karma, the laws of karma a little bit better, which is not about retribution at all. It's simply, there's cause and effect, and then at some point you go beyond that. You transcend cause and effect. But it's kind of like, when you're a child and you're first learning, your parents might have to let you touch the hot pan before you believe them that it's hot. That's karma in action there. It's not punitive.
Right.
But then as you get older, you can look at a flame and not have to touch it to know that it's hot. That's transcending cause and effect. So I feel my concept of God, to answer your question more directly, is that it helped me to see that the universe is conspiring for our greater good, even if it may not look like it, and that there is a responsive universe, and that there is a co-creation, so there is co-responsibility. And so it's not, God's up there determining everything and I just have to live with it, or I'm down here in control of everything. There's a dance with the divine. And I think I came away from these experiences understanding there is a dance, and how can I be a better dance partner?
I love that, because it really is a dance. It's not this straight walk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit of a zig and a little bit of a zag. So
yeah,
I love
zag, if you want to be creative.
Yeah, exactly. So the next question I have for you, because you have had a healing practice, you've met with these amazing men and women who are healers, wise. How would you define a healer? I mean, what makes up a healer from what you observed? Or is there any one thing that makes up a healer?
Well, they definitely come in different shapes, forms, and methodologies. But I think the one thing that I see in common is a commitment to being of service, a commitment to help to alleviate suffering. And that's the one common denominator, I would say.
Yeah, I like that answer. I think I would have to totally agree with you on that. And then what about healing? Because healing can be defined in many different ways.
Sorry, I think I do make a distinction between healing that is curative and something that's curative and something that's healing. And something can be curative and healing at the same time. But, sometimes people think of healing as you're going to cure my disease, whereas I think healing is you're going to learn from your disease and transform it into something different. So, and it may kill you, in which case people would consider that not curative. But in my book, in that process, if you've grown your consciousness and your spirit, then you've won. Therefore, a healing occurred. So I think there's a component of having a meaning to suffering.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, the thing to really remember is that we really don't die. We are these beautiful, innate, spiritual beings that are kind of crammed into this tiny little space we call a physical body. And we get so attached to this physicality, this physical world, without realizing it's just a tiny little fraction of who and what we really are. And I think that's one of the things that's very much exposed in your documentary and in your book, is that, the things that you witnessed and the things you were taught and the things that were shared with you, they transcended just this physical body thing.
Yes, indeed.
It really spoke to that greater part of ourselves.
Yes. And yet, as we said, there's a conversation, there's a dance. So, some people, and I think this is changing quite a bit, but some people still feel that the denial of the physical body or the material is the way to spirituality. And I think that's, that's something that my teachers really helped me with, that that's not the point of it at all.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not about the denial of the body, but it's about the awareness of the body as well as the spirituality. And it's not an either or.
Yes. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. And speaking of either or, so we're going to be going into another break pretty soon. But before we do, I know I'm going to really want to know how you've been able to bridge the gap between these spiritual experiences that you personally have, having been a healer, to being a chief operating officer of a multi-million-dollar, very corporate kind of environment, and being able to straddle between the two and create that bridge. That I'm sure is a dance as well. Yes. So as we head into our break, please stay tuned. You're going to hear more from Marie Rose. We'll be back in just a moment. Thank you for listening, Intuitive Transformations. We will return.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, sea-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
As difficult as it is to believe, There are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello and welcome back. This is Sylvia Henderson. I'm here with Marie Rose Phan-Le, and she has been sharing with all of us some of her experiences and her adventure as she was in the process of creating two beautiful exposés into ancient healing and spiritual traditions. One is a documentary that is an award-winning documentary called Talking Story, A Personal Journey into the World of Healing. And where can people find the documentary, Marie Rose?
You know, if you go to my website, talkingstorybook.com, you can find out how to purchase the book and the DVD. You could also find all my social media links. So talkingstorybook.com will help you to get in touch with me and learn more about me and my projects.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then also the book, Talking Story, One Woman's Quest to Preserve Ancient Spiritual and Healing Traditions. They can get that through. Can they also get it through Amazon or just through your...
Oh, yeah. Both. Actually, both. You can get the DVD and the book through Amazon. You can get the book at your local bookstore. I also always like to support indie bookstores as well. So if you have an independent bookstore near you, you can get that as well, because we I'm published by North Atlantic Books and we're distributed by Random House. Beautiful.
And then I also understand that you have some news to share about something coming up in the future between you and OMTimes magazine.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited and blessed to have been given the opportunity to be a contributor. And so once a month, the last issue of each month, they'll feature an article that I contribute to OMTimes. So that's really quite an honor, and I'm very excited about it. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic news. And so for those of you who have not yet subscribed to OMTimes magazine, go to omtimes.com and do so. It's a free subscription, and it is chock full of wonderful articles. Marie Rose is going to be one of the monthly authors, and it will definitely help you to open your awareness and raise your level of consciousness. It's a beautifully, beautifully produced magazine, so please take advantage of that. So before we went into the last break, Marie Rose, I was talking about how you've been able to bridge the gap between this spiritual world and this very third dimensional, real physical world that we all live in, and you have to work hard and you have to make money and all of that good stuff. So how were you able to, with everything you've learned from your family spiritual heritage, the ancient spiritual teachings, and the healers that you have met in your life, and from even having had your own practice as a healer, how did you move into your present position as the chief operating officer and the creative director for a multi-million-dollar company?
Well, it's really, I'm in a really, really wonderful place in my life, Sylvia, where I'm beginning to understand what it means to live a blended or integrated life. And so before I went on this journey, we touched on this. I was in the film business, and I'd also been in the technology industry. Then I went on this incredible journey, was given a lot of healing transmissions and wisdom, and then started having a healing practice, which I did not pursue at all. It just happened.
It pursued you.
Exactly. It was exactly like that.
It pursues all of us healers. Don't choose it.
And as beautiful as it was to work with people one-on-one, I realized that with my background, having worked in media, and in business and in technology, that I could serve better by trying to reach many people at once. And so doing that through media, but also when one runs a company, you're touching many people's lives, not only the employees, but also their families and all the people that they touch are clients and when they are clients to others. So for me, I realized, Sylvia, that it's really lovely to be able to get away, go to the rainforest and go to the Himalayas and move away from ordinary life. But the hero or the heroine must return with the elixir to the village. And I see that as, when you go on a journey, you're given the gifts that you're given, then the responsibility is to bring it back to those around you. And so for me, the option of living in a cave sounded really good, or living on an island, as the case may be, which I did for a while. But it seemed very important to give people this access to this information. How do you apply it to our lives today? I think that's a very important role that people like you and me serve, to be bridges in a different way. And so in answer to your question, many of the things I learned from the teachers and the healers was very much about community, right? About how to be in right relationship, if you will, with each other, with yourself and with each other. And when one is in a position of leadership, it becomes exponentially important to live values, to use one's intuition to be of service and to lead people to success. And I think that this idea, this dualistic thinking of spiritual versus material, or etheric versus physical, I think kind of perpetuates a form of insanity, because it causes us to remain fragmented. And so it's been quite a joy for me to be able to talk, use media to share these ideas, but to also to apply them in business, in how we want to have love, respect, and reciprocity with ourselves, amongst our team members, and then with our clients and with the people we serve. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, to be honest with you, because when I had my healing practice, I stepped away from the world so I could give people a perspective who were actively working through the day-to-day issues of their lives and working to weave spirituality into their lives, which is what you're doing. It's a beautiful gift. But then I realized there was also something that you must run into this as well, where people who are very practical and who say, "Well, I like what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're throwing down, but I still have to make a living." Or,
right.
But there's always this but in there, and I thought, what's the but? Why is not and? Why can't we say and?
That's a very good point. It does. I love how you started this conversation with blended and integrated life. I think that's something that is missing from the spiritual community, people who are more metaphysical or spiritually minded. Yes. There is still this vibrational undergirding that the spirituality should not mean financial prosperity,
right.
Or, not even about just being able to take care of yourself and pay your bills,
Right.
And so it does kind of create this dichotomy, or this divisive energy of like, well, where are you? You're either on that side or the other side.
Yes.
And it's really about like integrating the masculine and the feminine. That's really what it is, because the feminine energy is about receiving, right?
Yes.
And the masculine is putting your work out there in the world. And so both of that yin and yang have to work in harmony in your life.
Absolutely.
And I loved how you spoke about that right relationship with yourself and right relationship with your community, because it's so important to first have that right relationship with yourself, because if you don't have that, how then can you have a right relationship with your community? You cannot.
Yes.
You can't give what you don't have, right? So,
right. Well, and this is also why I live in Hawaii and I work in Denver, because as you know, when you've done intuitive work, or you have a certain sensitivity to things, and I get filled up when I'm on the mainland. I get overstimulated, and I feel that when I go away to the island and
You get to rejuvenate and renew your
Yes.
battery, right?
Yeah, and I bring the mana of the Aina, right, the energy of the place, back with me to the mainland. And so it's this, and in fact, one of the healers in my film, Papa-K, told me that's what I needed to do. I ignored him for a long time, and I finally realized he's absolutely right. And he said, once you're imprinted with the energy of the Aina, one, you really shouldn't be away for more than 6 weeks at a time. And if you must leave, you've got to come back often, and then not only rejuvenate yourself, but bring that which is offered on the islands to those on the mainland or elsewhere.
So when you say Aina, that's the energy of the islands? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, so the mana is the energy or the power of the Aina, and the Aina is what we call, the place, the power of place, the land. Mm. But I learned recently that Aina actually means that which feeds us. So
interesting.
Yeah, so I'm still being with that, because I just met with my friend Nancy Kahalibai, who was the bridge person that introduced me to Hawaii, and she said you need to watch this film Aina, and how they define Aina as that which feeds us, and it absolutely feels true for me about being home in Hawaii. Mm. And if I'm fed, I'm a better leader. I can carry more people. And lead from a stronger perspective, and so it's very important to be able to blend those things together.
And what a beautiful example of being in right relationship with yourself, so that you can take it back to that material community and then share that with them.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, we're coming to the end of our show, sadly. This has been so lovely. Fast. I know, it always does, darn it. But it's been really fantastic to have you on the show with me. Coming up next week, everyone, I'm going to have Matt Kahn joining me, and he's a highly attuned empathic healer and spiritual teacher. We're going to talk about the gift of the empath. So I know that there's a lot of you out there who are highly sensitive and very empathic, and this is a show that you definitely want to listen to. It'll change and transform your life. Marie Rose, thank you so much, my dear. It's been lovely.
Thank you. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Take care now.
You too.
Bye-bye, everyone.